Morning, Market Chameleons. Happy Monday morning. Dima, how you doing?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Excellent. You have a good weekend?
Yep. How about you?
Excellent, excellent. What do we have on tap for today?
So I think today we'll continue with the Q&A. Friday we had to move the show to the afternoon, and I think Thursday there was a question right up at the end we couldn't get to. So hopefully the person comes back today, has a chance to ask that question. But the idea here is, today we'll just answer any kind of question, and it'll be question and answer day. If you have questions about the tools, options, any mechanics of options, you could ask now. There's two ways to do that. You could type it into the live chat. We'll read it to me, or we'll put it in a link to the Zoom. If you go use that link and raise your hand, we'll bring you on live so you could ask your question live. You don't have to turn on your video camera, but at least we'll hear the question and we'll be able to ask, sometimes the questions aren't very clear, so we could ask you what the surrounding circumstances are so we could better answer that question.
Excellent. And I did put that link in the chat, the YouTube chat. Why don't we start with the disclaimer? What do you think?
Yep. So before we get started, everyone keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to help answer your questions and provide you with guidance. There's a disclaimer. And with that, I'll share my screen. And while we're waiting for the questions to come in, because I know there's a little bit of a delay, I'll just start out looking at the pre-market report, maybe take a look at some of the questions that are coming in, through email or previous questions from previous shows. Start with those, and then once we get the questions coming in, we'll focus on that. So right now, this is the pre-market report. These are stocks trading in a pre-market hours. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. I'm coming down here just to see how many stocks made our percentage gainers list. Today there was 71, 88 on a percentage decliners list. Kind of a mixed bag there, maybe a little bit more biased towards a bearish open. I'm going to take a look at the higher market cap stocks to see if we're seeing a similar picture. So market cap, let's do 20 billion or higher. And then let me refresh my screen. So 20 billion or higher, we got 9 on the percentage gainers list, 29 percentage decliners list. So the lists aren't huge, but a little bit more biased towards the bearish side at the open. This one sticks out. I think Robinhood up 6%, so that's been in the news just went IPO. Coinbase up 4.4%. So I think that's also rallying because a lot of these cryptocurrencies are starting to come back a little bit. And we're Coinbase still IPO'd like way higher than this. I think we're still like off $100 from the IPO price.
At least.
But it's coming off the lows for sure. But still way below where that IPO.
Yeah, traded as high as 429. I don't know if that was in the first couple days, but
yeah. So kind of like IPO, the timing, I guess, for the IPO was good because it was like at the peak of the cryptos, and right after they just kind of sold off, especially with negative news coming out of China and stuff concerning crypto. So there was sometimes I do get questions about pre-market that I feel like maybe people don't maybe understand what the pre-market report is. So when we talk about the pre-market, stocks trade obviously regular hours after 9:30. They start trading with, you got specialists, market makers, institutions all participating. Those are regular trading hours. The pre-market, these are actual trades, right? These are not like like some kind of indicators. These are actual transactions happening in a pre-market. And that's what we're monitoring, because I think some people might think it's kind of like an indication, you know, but it's not like New York Stock Exchange trying to predict it. It's really like that's where the stock is trading in the pre-market hours. So you could start trading if your broker allows in the pre-market hours, but in a pre-market or after hours, the rules are different. You don't have the same rules that are protecting you that you do during regular hours with Reg NMS and trade throughs and, you know, market maker obligations, specialist obligations. It's more of the Wild West, so you got to be careful there. Harder to break a trade, you know, in illiquid, you know, when stocks are more illiquid. Usually you see the trading really pick up the pre-market, you know, where I think, in my opinion, it's like right after 7 a.m. Eastern. You know, you could start at 4 a.m. It's very liquid, but at 7 a.m. you start seeing kind of more trading because that's where the news cycle starts. So you start seeing press releases coming in from different companies. You know, they'll announce earnings, or they'll announce some kind of relevant information, maybe material information, and stocks are starting to react to that. So that's when you're really, and I think also some liquidity providers, that's when they start turning things on as well. So that's where you start seeing really the pickup and I think the true trading in a pre-market. It's kind of like after 7 a.m. Eastern, and that's how we kind of follow it. Before that, you might see some trickling. Let me just take a look. Here's GNOG, just to see. So see, it's up 54%. You could see here, this one kind of started at 811, right? So we could take a look here. Looks like maybe some news, 7:41 a.m. today on Global Newswire. So you see agreement to be acquired by Golden. So that's kind of like to keep in mind. You know, people want to get in there at 4 a.m. to see it. You're going to see a much completely different picture. And most likely, if you're trying to do it at 4 a.m., you're probably going to get run over right before that news cycle comes in. So you're kind of like a sitting duck. But around 7 a.m. is like, I would say that's where like it's really the pre-market starts to, you know, be active. So that was for the pre-market. Some questions, you know, where I get like, what time do you start seeing it, and kind of what is it? You know, so these are, like I said, these are actual trades. 52, it's up 52%. You could come down here. This is a minute by minute VWAP. So you see 113 trades happen. This is the volume at 852. You know, this is the VWAP price, volume weighted average price, high low that minute. So you can kind of get a minute by minute summary of what's been going on in this stock. And this is the chart here. Let me know if you have any questions.
We did. Will. We had a question, D, from a new chameleon who popped in this morning, Max. He was asking about where can he find the Greeks on the options chain? Is there a place to find them?
Yeah, so if you go to the options chain, just say like Apple. And go to options chain here on the side under options, bring up the options chain. And the options chain is, you know, that's a way we organize. If you guys are new to it, that's the way we really organize the options data, because there's a lot of options data, and you could see here different expiration months. And when I click on an expiration month, to the right of it, it'll bring up the options that expired this September 17th. So we've got calls on this side, puts, implied volatilities, IV rank, Theos, volume. Down here on the left-hand side, these are the calls. You start with the delta. That's one of the Greeks. Delta of the puts are on the right-hand side. All right, so we divide, this is the strike, calls on the left, put data on the right. Start off, here's your delta. This drops down, and you have different selections. So if you want to look at the gamma, that's another Greek. Vega, theta, rho in here. Okay, and then you got some other, indicators to help you. Let's say you just wanted to see what did the market change in this option. So you can do market change, and basically options, they're marked to market, right? So your broker, they will mark to market. That's the industry standard, which means that they're going to look at the bid and ask quote at the end of the day, and they're going to mark it to the midpoint. And based on mark to market, we could see, well, how much did each of these options change from the previous day. Right now we're closed, so this is Fridays. You can do the same thing on the put side. So you could see here that, I guess Apple was down on Friday. So these in the money puts were up, calls were down, but some of the puts, the out of the money puts were down too, which is saying that the implied volatility was coming in. So even if those out of the money puts, stock was down, they still came in. Okay, they decayed and implied volatility dropped. So that's looking at the market change. You can look at the implied volatility change as well. And then you got the Greeks as well. And open interest, another thing that a lot of people reference, the open interest per strike or per contract. Is that helpful?
Yeah, actually, Andy says, wow, didn't know you could do that with the Greeks. Pretty cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandy. So again, got a lot of information there, on that options chain, because options, there's a lot of data, a lot of statistics, and a lot of analytics. So pretty powerful tool, but it's all in the options chain here.
All right, we do have, and I'm sorry I didn't pop over to Zoom earlier, but Vlad is back on Zoom and his hand is raised. So we're going to try to bring Vlad in. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, Vlad, I know there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll get to that hand right now. Here's Vlad coming in.
Oh, hey, Vlad. Hey,
Good
Vlad.
morning, guys. Good morning, Will and Dimitri. Thanks for taking my call, by the way, and appreciate you doing these shows every day. Lots of good info, and we learn something every day. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Vlad.
My question had to do with what we did last week. You ran screeners last week, and I was looking up on iron condors, and there's no way to search based on delta parameters. Am I missing something there, or let's say, for example, I'll be looking for iron condors with say 25 delta on each side.
Okay, so you're talking about over here, we're on the iron condor. So just so everybody knows, in the iron condor, we're selling an out of the money put spread and selling an out of the money call spread simultaneously, right? So just to go over here is like an Apple. If we're selling these puts, 145 put, buying the 138 put, then selling the call spread, the 148 call, buying the 155 call. So that's what we're doing right now. Is this what strategy you're looking at, Vlad?
Yes.
Okay. So generally, with an iron condor, it's a neutral strategy, right? So you're not like really trying to do a delta play. You're kind of just trying to do here. Let me just show really quickly how it looks. So when you're doing an iron condor, the idea is you're trying to I went to the options chain. By clicking on it, goes to the options chain, populates the legs here. And I just wanted to show on for the viewers what it looks like at expiration. So you could see here, the idea is that you want the stock to kind of remain in a certain range, right? You don't want it to leave us. If you're in this situation when you're selling, the call spread and the put spread, you want it to remain inside a certain range, not pop out of that range, right? And ideally, if it does, your call spread expires worthless, your put spread expires worthless, and you get to keep the credit, right? But the idea behind iron condor is if we see a violent move in either direction, up or down, you're kind of stopped out because you own the wings, like here. Okay, so you own the wings, you're stopped out, but you're trying to it's kind of like, think of it, if you're selling a strangle, right, out of the money call, out of the money put, you just want the stock to kind of sit there, not cross those strikes. This is just going a little bit further and buying protection wings further out. So the strategy itself is really like a neutral, direction neutral strategy. Usually it's like a delta neutral strategy. So you don't want the straddle itself to have a delta unless you might have a little bias, maybe that you think like it's more likely to float higher or float lower. So if you come here, you could start out from the screener, but if you find something interesting, you can click on it. And let's say I'm on this, I'm looking at this strategy here, and I just want to give it a little bit of a upward bias. So I could use these strikes here, maybe move all of the strikes up. All right, rerun the screen. And you can see here now I have a slightly positive delta, and I'm giving it an upward bias, all right, because I think it'll float higher. But in general, it's kind of like a delta neutral strategy. So the idea is you're picking something that you think the stock will be in between a certain range.
Thanks, Dimitri. I guess what I was thinking is, if I stayed, my wings would be away from the spot price, say, for example, a 25 delta on each side or 15 delta on each side, whereby I'm sure you still have delta neutral at the end, but to stay away, like, say, for example, 1 standard deviation from the spot price. There's no way to screen for that, I guess, right?
So the way I think I understand let me just see while I'm just going to see if I have the deltas on here.
D?
Yeah.
You came back, though, when Vlad asked a question, your mic went underwater. So you're going to have to log out and log right back in. I'll keep Vlad on. And why don't you log off, come back in, and we'll answer the rest of Vlad's question.
Okay, let me do that. I'll be right back.
All right, awesome. Hey, Vlad, thanks so much for coming on. As we wait for D, let me couple housekeeping notes on tomorrow at noon. We have an IBKR webinar. I will copy and paste that link into the YouTube chat. That is at 2 p.m. tomorrow. You have to register through Interactive Brokers for that. I did put a link, some self-promotion stuff in the YouTube chat. We'd appreciate anyone voting for us for this Benzinga award, FinTech award. Always helpful to get some kind of recognition for what's going on here on Market Chameleon. So that link is in the chat as well a couple times already. I know Gene was nice enough to be the 6th vote. Mike was, I think, the 3rd vote after myself and my daughter. So it is working. Ron, I see you have a question about the stocks trade screener. If we don't get to that today, I will certainly mention it to D that has possibly changed. Max with the second order Greeks, Van and Charm. That is an interesting question. I would say email support at MarketChameleon.com and mention those second order Greeks and that you'd like to maybe see them in the options chain. What other questions do you have in there? Oh, D is back. All right. We still got Vlad on, D. So why don't you continue? You're going to have to share your screen again, D.
Okay. One sec. Let me. Oh, hey, Vlad. So let me just follow. So the idea, I'm trying to think about like what the thought process is the idea behind it that you want to try to push out the wings as far as possible because then it's less likely to hit.
To be hit, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah. So by the same idea, and I see this a lot, people do the same thing with selling an out of the money put, right? So what you'll see is a lot of times people start selling an out of the money put and they want to sell it deeper and deeper out of the money because they think, okay, well, the further and further it goes out, the less chance that that stock will cross that strike, right? So that's kind of like the same idea here. the further and further you go out, you're thinking the less chance that that could happen. And, sometimes, and you got to be careful with that, sometimes there's a reason it might be pumped up, right? Especially when we're talking about an individual stock. So probably if you're doing it like something in SPY, and I'm just talking from my experience, it's hard to say if nobody knows what the market's going to do. But when you see something very unusual, like say pumped up in a specific stock, somebody might be doing their homework. There might be something going on there, and you should start paying more attention to it because, stocks are more, news driven, right? Like they're more individual driven. So that's one thing to be careful with, because I do see that people, and they've been telling me, oh, I sold these puts way out of the money, but then then the stock crashed and they're way in the money. So that's one thing. Be careful when you're screening like that for stocks. You want to kind of see what the story is and be confident in what you're doing. Here, I don't have a delta range that way. You could probably, though, use a combination of max gain and max loss, and really like the theoretical edge will kind of even tell you based on historical patterns of how the stock moved, on average, would it land in between the strikes or out, right? So this is kind of doing that historical analysis for you. Basically, what it's saying is a way to screen, well, with whatever days it has to go in Apple, on average, what would the end result be of this strategy, right? So if the market price is 229, right, am I getting a good deal or not good deal? And based on history, how the stock tended to move, on average, the end value is 266, right? So now you kind of are getting a sense, how that stock tends to move, right? Because even if you get pushed out, the idea is even if you push things out, maybe for that stock, it needs to be pushed out that way, So that's one way you could start screening for it. And if you want to, like I said, if you start out with this, right, and you find good ones, you could always just start pushing it out yourself, like I just showed you. But I don't have a delta, filter here because I was just looking at it and we don't have a delta filter.
Right.
I could take a look if we could add one, but I don't have one on there now.
I believe it was available in vertical spreads, though. So
the vertical spreads, right?
Vertical
okay,
spreads.
I'll take a look. Because the vertical spreads has 2 legs. Here you have 4 legs, right, to the strategy. So that's just a lot of ways. And by the way, the delta itself is a derivative of the option, right? So the delta is based on where the implied volatility is. So even if you use a delta, for example, if the implied volatility is very low, right, then a 25 delta option will be much closer to the strike. As you push it, implied volatility gets higher, then the deltas start increasing for all the options. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Derivative, right?
That's
all right.
Awesome.
I'll take a look if it's something that we could add or something else to help in that kind of scenario that you're looking for.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And sorry to take all the time of the.
Oh, Vlad, that was super helpful. And bring a question every day if you can, Vlad.
Great.
It helps everyone in the community. And thanks for waiting. I think you waited like almost 5 days for that question.
No worries. I was out and about. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vlad.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
So any other questions?
Well, we did, and I want to get to as many of the questions as possible. We did max was asking about some second order Greeks. If you'd ever thought about bringing those to the options chain. I forget the ones he was talking about, but have you ever thought about bringing this Vanna and Charm, I guess, which are second order Greeks, to the options chain he was asking about?
If he could come on and explain what he means by that, it would be better when he says second order Greeks, because to me, what he might be saying is, what is the gamma of the gamma or the vega of the vega? But I don't know, because I start to guess what people might be saying, and they might be thinking something different. So that's why it's a good reason to.
So Max is a brand new chameleon today. So Max, if you come on tomorrow, I'll put the link in the chat, and you can click over and you just raise your hand, and we will get you in if you want to ask this question. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, anytime. Just remind me in the YouTube chat that you're on, and I'll make sure the link is there, and you'll come over and ask that question. We did have another question from Ron, who's an active user. He was asking, and I'm not aware of this, so maybe you'll know. He says, I know you have something similar under screener block trades, but it shows only the tickers that the block trades and not the specific symbol. What I want is to look into for future events. Ron, that's actually, as I read it out loud, it sounds like something. Maybe email Market Chameleon or support at Market Chameleon with your question about the block trade screener. I can't make out exactly what you're asking.
Yeah, because when you say tickers and symbols, to me it's the same thing. So it doesn't make, like, here's a symbol, Apple, or some people refer to a ticker. So I'm not sure what you mean by it has tickers but not symbols. Like, maybe, again, coming on the show like live sometimes helps clear up, what the actual question is. Because we have to start assuming, what you mean by it. And it's okay. It's like, look, we're looking at a lot of data, a lot of information, and sometimes you're referring to things differently than maybe we refer to it, so we just want to clear up like how you're referencing data.
Oh, Ron had another, there are so much in the chat, so I may have missed it. Ron was saying, in stocks company events, used to have an entry box for symbol that I could enter and look for upcoming events specific to one stock. He says it's not there anymore. Is there any chance of bringing it back, is what he was asking.
So over here, events by symbol, let's just see if we could. So here's Roku, right? So these are the past events in Roku. And here's the upcoming August 9th, just today at 1:20. But you could just enter it here at the top, and to exit it, just hit, just click close. So, let's say here's August 10th. I'm just looking if it's working correctly, but here AT&T, we see August 10th. But if you just put the symbol in here, right, I'm going to put in T, look up upcoming events, and here they are. So I think this is what Robert was looking. Then you could just close to get back.
So Ron, if for some reason you're not seeing that, take a screenshot of what you're seeing. If you don't have the ability to enter the symbol there, and email that to support at Market Chameleon. It may be some sort of issue on your end, and maybe we can help get it back.
It's possible. It's possible maybe that this event, this symbol search box may have been on the other side. I don't know. I don't remember. It could have been like where we just moved it to the right side. Maybe that's why he was expecting it to be on the left and it's on the right. But I think this is my interpretation of the question. I think he's just trying to enter in a symbol and look up, upcoming events or historical events. And these events will not include things like earnings. You'd have to go to the earnings calendar. These are just.
And Ron said that worked, and that's helpful. And that's why we try to answer the questions, and why we're having more of these Q&As, because we're trying to help people figure out things while working around the Chameleon platform. So good question, Ron. Thanks, Vlad. Great job coming on live. We recommend anyone with a question come on live. They turn out to be much deeper digging questions when they come on live, I think. Great job, Dima.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks everyone for all the questions. I think it's super helpful to us and to other members in the community. And hope you guys stay safe out there. Have a good trading day, and hope to see you guys tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow we're doing a webinar with Interactive Brokers. Right?
No way, we are.
I think that's tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I
What
announced
time?
it when you were out. I announced it. I also
Oh, did
announced,
you? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
I don't know if you're aware, but we were also put up for a Benzinga FinTech Award. So
Oh,
I
awesome.
announced that, put the link to that to vote. And Gene was nice enough to read the fine print, and I guess you can vote once a day. So for chameleons who care, you can actually vote once a day for us, which is kind of cool. And I'll let my daughter know, because I was the first vote and she was the second vote for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell my son, because according to my son, he said that he's Market Chameleon #1 fan.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. And a big shout out to Jake. Everyone think of Jake. He was supposed to be on this morning. He is still not feeling well. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but just positive thoughts for Jake, aka the doctor, big member of the chameleon community. Let's all send him good thoughts.
Thanks, Will.